As Christians, we love talking about those big supernatural miracles that God performs, but we also love talking about how God works and performs miracles even in the ordinary things in life. And to steal some words from Martin Luther, this is most certainly true, especially when it comes to just putting on a Christmas dinner.
Welcome to No Apology with Emilee and Chris. It's a variety talk show designed to have you laugh louder, dig deeper, and live larger in the Lord Jesus Christ. She's my best friend and bride, Emilee. My name is Chris, and we have been doing broadcasting together for so long that we just want to continue it onward with this No Apology talk show. And so we don't have a format. We don't have program directors. We just try to have fun and insights. And so Emilee wants you to know that she would love for you to like and subscribe to what we've got going on. I'm doing a guest speaking at a men's conference coming up, and the title of my message is called Don't Bury Your Talents in the Dirt. And we don't know why that plays twice, but it does.
That's okay.
That's okay. And so that's all we're trying to do, is we're trying to just continue to do what God's had us do a lot over the last 25 years, and that is broadcast together. Over 4,000 shows. Sometimes we had program directors, we had roadmaps, we had things we had to accomplish, we had sponsors. We have none of that.
We had rules we had to follow.
We can just take a show and say, hey, how did they make Christmas dinner 200 years ago? Would you like to do a show on that? That's what was asked to me this morning during morning devotions. And you know what I said? I said what I always say. Yes, dear. That would be great.
Okay.
I don't know what we're going to talk about for 200 years worth of dinner, but anyway, so what's the premise behind this content that you're bringing to this variety talk show that we just have fun doing, that a lot of people are latching onto saying, hey, that's fun. I want to be a part of it.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
So we're talking about Christmas. And actually, Chris, this is probably...
You said that like a very strict fifth grade teacher. There'll be a math quiz. There'll be a math quiz today.
This is I think our final episode for 2025, right?
It is. This is it. And so I want to encourage everybody to go to freshroadmedia.com and give a gift, a year-end gift. If you'd like to stand with us, it'd be great as we go into 2026, trying to spread the gospel through Salvaged by God and No Apology with Emilee.
Yeah.
And so it's our last show, so you got to Christmas it up.
Right. It's a week before Christmas right now. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And what has actually happened is December has become very holiday Christmassy for No Apology with Emilee and Chris. And so
I thought you were going to say people understand December is Christmas time.
Yeah. But we often talk about
news this December, expect a Christmas.
Yeah, we often talk about other things as well, but I think this December we were extra Christmassy. I don't know why, but
so?
Yeah, I really do. Now, as I was making some homemade sourdough pizza crust the other day, I burned my hand really, really bad. I pulled out a cast iron skillet out of the oven, a 500-degree oven, and then just like without thinking as I'm, doing things with the pizza thing, I just went to kind of just turn the skillet a little bit without remembering to grab the hot pad. So it takes me back to how did they do this stuff so many years ago? And I actually found an article that gave some detail as to what it really entailed like 200 years ago to simply put on Christmas dinner. And it was absolutely fascinating. And so we're going to go back in time.
Now, are we talking America? Are we talking old England or what,
Mostly old England and into a little bit of America because it was relatively the same. About 200 years ago is how far back we're going. And so...
Do we have to use the word governor? Like as in good day, governor?
Cheerio. Merry Christmas to you. We could do
Christmas
that.
all of the year.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So here's what you have to think of before we get into this. You have to take away the mega stores where we go and buy everything, one-stop shopping, and we load up in bulk, right?
Yeah.
We have to take away refrigeration. We have to take away the convenience of microwaves and ovens. And my personal biggest blessing, the dishwasher, right?
Yeah.
Because all that goes out the window when we backtrack through time. So,
I remember being, I think, maybe 13, and we've got our first microwave.
yeah.
I thought we were astronauts.
Yeah,
I
it was
thought
the size of a small car.
it was literally like a console we put up on the counter, and my dad's like, "That's not going to work," and so he went out and got a cart for it. So it had its
Yes.
own cart. It was special,
Yeah.
and it had a little knob, and you'd turn it to 1 minute or
Yeah, they were
whatever.
dials that we used
yeah.
back then. It was pretty amazing.
I mean, you could roast a baked potato in like a minute and a half, and it was just. I think they don't make them that strong anymore because I don't know. Maybe radiation is partly the reason I am the way I am. Anyway,
Yeah, those early microwaves
we
could
take.
explain a lot, maybe.
So I
I don't
think
know.
part of the theme of what you're going to get into here
Mhm.
is that we take for granted everything that we have.
Right.
Technology has come such a long way, even in our lifetime.
Mhm.
We're 60 this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember just technology sidebar.
Yeah.
Going back to my business class as a junior in high school,
Mhm.
they took us all down to the bank on a field trip. And we
Okay.
were talking to someone in California, and they were writing names down. And then one student was asked to give a code word, and they wrote that code word down. And then all of a sudden, we turned to this machine, and it printed out this piece of paper that had everything we had just talked about from California. It was this newfangled thing called a facsimile.
Mhm.
Oh my, did we think we were just,
It was like the Clampets
it was the
all over
Jetsons
again.
had shown up, man. And so when you take that into consideration with 200 years of cooking and preparing a meal, I think we completely forget what it was really like. So I'm excited for you to take us on this journey today.
It has totally changed. Now, I have to be very open and honest about this. This is not my research. Okay. I'm basically lifting this from one article that I read in Genealogy Explained, and it's an article written by Mark McDermott. So you can go online and you can read the article yourself. But I'm
call Mark directly and say plagiarism, plagiarism.
No, I'm crediting him. I'm totally crediting him with this list and everything.
It's Christmas plagiarism.
Okay, so it's for baby Jesus.
Yes.
So it's okay.
It's all right.
All right. So you got to remember, even the little things, there's no thermometers, there's no timers, there's no nothing. So
no running water.
We're going to go back in time. And I loved how Mark McDermott describes it. He describes putting on a Christmas dinner basically as a high stakes performance. Okay. Because people.
That's a great analogy.
I know. They saved all year for it. It was not a cheap thing. They worked all year for it, like as we're going to find out. So let's get started.
Let's get started.
And speaking of started, Christmas dinner started really early. Things were cooked over a flame, over in the fireplace. And so those fires had to get started. So the eldest of the house would get up usually before 5 a.m. and start stoking all those fireplaces. This was the coldest part of the day, but it was also still dark. And so imagine just like getting your wood ready and everything just by candlelight. You can see your breath. It's cold. And so it starts very, very early. Okay. So getting the fires started was a big, big thing. Now, the meals were not necessarily cooked over the fire itself, but over coals. And so it took some time for the fire to burn and produce a nice bed of coals. It sometimes took like a couple hours in order for those coals to be ready to start actually roasting food.
Yeah, so there was no sleeping in on Christmas Day.
No sleeping in. And one fire was not enough.
No.
You needed the big hearth fire, which was like in the main part of the house, but then you needed small fires as well. For pies and puddings and dishes, the side dishes. But the big piece of meat, that was roasted in the big hearth. Okay. So the smaller fires were for smaller dishes, and then other fires in other rooms where just people would be gathering. All right. So one of the big things about Christmas, one of the big dishes that has been carried down from generation to generation, we hear about it all the time, figgy pudding.
Hey, in Prep and Landing, if you guys have never seen Prep and Landing, Emilee and I want to encourage you to watch the original first, but they have 3 of them. And when things go bad, the head of Santa's elves calls for figgy pudding.
Yeah, she says figgy pudding.
And that means that we have to abort the mission. mission is aborted. And so I think that would be figgy pudding.
That is figgy pudding. Christmas pudding, it's also known as, but listen to what the ingredients were. Suet, flour.
I thought you were going to say sewage. I'm like, I got to be honest. That doesn't look like much, but when you start out with sewage as your main course.
No, suet. Suet. And if you don't know what that is, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Suet, flour, raisins, and brandy. And it was all tied up and boiled in a cloth bag. Guess how long it took to boil that figgy pudding? 6 hours. That's right. 6 hours it took to make one, and they weren't that large, one figgy pudding for Christmas.
Okay. Is that suet right there that the kids are in?
No, those are the raisins. I'm going to get to those in a second too. Just the figgy pudding. Let's look at the figgy pudding.
All right. Well, you said suet, and that's okay.
That's not suet. All right, figgy pudding. There you go. Yeah, there it is.
That was it.
It's in a cloth bag, and they boil it in a cloth bag, which sounds kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't. It would boil for 6 hours. That took place in the laundry room because it's being boiled in water. Wherever they did the laundry, that's where they made the figgy pudding. And so,
okay, I just figured out your notes. Emilee gave me these notes to try to follow along and put the pictures up there. I've been bouncing pictures all over since you started talking.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
Hey, if we had like sponsors and program directors, we'd stop and start over. We don't.
No.
So we won't.
Let's just go back.
Figgy pudding. It's not made with sewage. It's made with suet.
Suet, flour, raisins, brandy in a cloth bag, boiled for 6 hours straight, either in the laundry room or outside in the garden, because that you couldn't have that boiling water inside the house.
Right.
And that would be very, very bad.
That would be bad.
That'd be very bad because there wasn't really exactly ventilation. But think about this. If at any point that water stopped boiling over 6 hours, it would ruin it. It would just become like soup. Okay. So you had to keep adding water so that the water didn't all evaporate, but you couldn't add the water so as to quell the boiling. So it was really, it's a touch and go thing there. You know, a lot of attention.
Wow, that's a tap dance that has Dad hollering at you all over it. Not too much water. You got to give it enough. Yeah. Feed the boil. Not too much. Is that not what's happening?
That's exactly what's happening. Okay, so let's get back to the ingredients. Suet, because now we're cooking it. But wait a minute, let's back up to when we were actually preparing it. The suet is fat from a cow, but it's very specific fat. You can't just use anything. It's the fat that's around the kidneys of the cow that was harvested and then a nice little membrane put over it to preserve it. So the cook would get this chunk of suet. I can tell you're getting really hungry, Chris, aren't you? They would have to pick off.
Nothing says hunger like suet. Suet.
Cow kidney fat, right? They would have to pick off the membrane by hand.
Of course.
And then they had to cut the suet up into little teeny, tiny pieces. If they didn't cut it up small enough, when it would start to cook, it wouldn't blend all together. And then you'd end up with just this brick. Okay. Now, you know what it's like to cut cold fat? That's not an easy job. Not at all. And so there was a lot of work just cutting up the tiny pieces, picking off the membrane, and getting the suet ready, okay?
So it's not just that the ingredients aren't at the grocery store all prepared. It's the fact that you have to have a skill set along with this with some intentionality and a little bit of precision, or you would ruin the dish.
And muscles. I can't even hardly knead bread like my grandma used to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, this took skill and it took some strength too. All right, let's get.
I came home one day and I'm like, she's out of breath. I'm like, did you just come from the gym? She's like, no, I just needed some bread. I'm like, well, hopefully it's good bread.
My arms were
just like,
I'm like, it said need for 10 minutes. I'm like, okay. And like 2 minutes in, I'm like, wait, I got 8 minutes left to go here. It was
Emilee
tough.
gets in a time machine 200 years ago. She's like, oh no, this just isn't going to do.
No.
No.
All right, let's
All
get
right.
the raisins, the next ingredient. All right.
All right.
Back then, there was no stainless steel jungle that these little fruits went through that removed the grapes' seeds. They had to be removed by hand. And each grape has, as you know, several seeds in it. So you had to make sure you got all of them out. And it took hundreds of these little buggers to make the figgy pudding. And so what they would do is this is not a hard thing to do, but it's very tedious and it took a long time. So usually it was like the kids or the very lowest member of the kitchen staff that was put in charge of it. Was called stoning the raisins. So the raisins had to be stoned as well.
So that's what stoning the raisins looks like.
Yeah, it looks adorable, but after 20 of them,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
but the celebration was such a big deal that everybody joyful. That's what I read in the Christmas story. Everybody joyfully did their part.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes it exciting to hear this story.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope for everybody's family on Christmas.
Yeah.
Our traditions of doing fondue on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Was joyful to me because it was the one time a year that all the kids pitched in with smiles on their face and there was joy and there was happiness.
Yeah.
And it was the feast of the year that we had so much left over that the Christmas Day tradition then was to do a stir fry. And again, same thing. Kids can I do the dishes? Can I help? Can I cut this?
Funny how focusing on the Lord can just make everybody happy and make the burden of the day, the chore of the day, fun and exciting.
Can I stone the raisins?
Yeah.
I want to stone the raisins. All right.
Now, you had to think ahead as well because sugar was not always in supply. And so what was in supply? Syrups and molasses and stuff like that. They usually would have that in jars in the pantry. But again, it's cold. You ever try to work with cold syrup or cold molasses? It's like cement. I mean, it's like epoxy. So you have to pull out those jars. You have to set them close enough to the fire to get warm, not so close that they get hot. And so you had to warm up those molasses jars before you could use those as well. All right, so no refrigeration, right? Everything is preserved, which means you have been working at all of this for months and months and months, right? It didn't just happen. You don't just make a grocery list and go to the store. So you either harvested from your garden and put in storage stuff, or it was stuff that was alive at the moment. That's what you ate. So the butcher could butcher it that morning, or they could hang the animal in the cold for several days. But there was a risk then that as that meat aged and got a little more tender, if temperatures unexpectedly rose, that meat could very, very easily go bad. You didn't want that to happen, especially when you're saving up your pennies to just buy a Christmas goose, governor, right?
Yeah, right.
So cellars where the vegetables and stuff were stored, it was not uncommon.
Cellars as in C-E-L-L, not sellers like S-E-L.
Right.
The basement
storage cellars on
the
occasion.
root vegetable cellar.
Yes. If the weather got out of whack, it was not unheard of for those cellars to either freeze or flood. And so anytime
Don't
you have
flood out
that
my Christmas meat.
I know. Anytime that unusual weather happened, there was always a high potential for spoilage. And that would mean there were no vegetables or there were no this and that for your Christmas dinner. Pork was actually a much more prominent meat for Christmas than it is today, believe it or not. I believe that my producer has a picture for you.
He's on strike for better volunteer wages.
So pork was very often served because fall was swine butchering time of year. So it was like, we're working on it. It was pretty fresh. And so it was much more common. But the goose was the fowl of choice because they were bigger than the average chickens. So it was really feast orientated, much more to eat. And also they did not cost as much as a turkey. In Victorian England, turkeys were pretty rare, but they were there. They could cost as much as a week's salary for the average person.
Is that why the prize turkey in the storefront during Christmas Carol is such a poignant thing to that audience?
Such a big deal. Yeah.
Okay, see, and it had that era about it my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you find out and you read through and you find out turkeys were really spendy at that time, it looked like Scrooge will keep Christmas well.
Not the average week's salary for Bob Cratchit. It was the average week's salary for Mr. Scrooge. You know what I mean? It was very, very expensive.
So the biggest turkey that hadn't sold is still in the butcher shop.
Yep.
Is a big crescendo moment to show that Scrooge is going to keep Christmas well.
He was exceedingly generous in that one act.
And as strong as that would have been to the original audience, you see how it kind of fades a little bit with time. It still holds its value.
Yes.
But it does fade a little bit in how boom that really would have been once you realize how expensive turkeys are.
It was more than just a better cut of meat. It was a Christmas miracle for the Cratchits to have a turkey on their Christmas dinner table. So, all right, they actually had, because the goose wasn't cheap either, right? They actually had what were called goose clubs. And what they were was,
I don't want to be part of a goose club.
Well, you just had to tootle on down to your local pub.
Yeah.
Because at the pubs, what they would do is you could put pennies in throughout, like months leading up or throughout the year. And then that's how you would save up money then to buy a Christmas goose. I don't know. They didn't do it through the banks because the average person or the poor person didn't have an account at the bank, right? So they would take it to their pub and put it in the little savings account at the pub. That way
as part of the Goose Club.
As part of the Goose Club, and that way you were also less apt to, well, let's just take from it. Like, resources were really scarce. It would have been really, really easy to say, well, let's just use that instead of saving it for that goose on Christmas. So Goose Clubs were a thing in the pubs of England. So across the pond, we're now in the U.S., the wild goose was plentiful, okay? But it was wild. It wasn't at the butcher shop. And so they would go out hunting them. They would also have venison and oftentimes raccoon for Christmas in the early pilgrims, early colony Christmases. And the problem was because they were wild, they had to have a little extra TLC to make that meat not so gamey, not so tough, and taste very comparable to the store counterparts that were bought in Victorian England, right? So that was a big thing. You had to go out and either hunt that wild bird that morning, or you had to hunt it ahead of time and then hang it to age. And again, you always run the risk of spoilage. Now with pheasant was also served. There was some skill involved to determine, has this aged properly? Here's the rule of thumb for pheasant anyway. If you could pull the tail feathers of the pheasant out real easily, if they just kind of came out real easy, you were good. The meat was ready to be cooked or roasted, and you didn't want it to age any further. Oftentimes, they would just let them hang until the body of the bird fell away from the head. They hung them up by the neck. So they would you had to check on them every single day.
Well, the line is probably pretty fine then.
Yeah.
Without refrigeration and whatnot to when the bird goes bad.
You had to check them every day and just make sure that they were aged well enough.
What if they were about to go bad and you saw it and you're still 2 days from Christmas?
Your timing was off then, and you'd have to cook it. And maybe they cooked it and somehow,
who knows?
I don't know what they did.
Who knows? But this is
how delicate of a thing that was.
And the big doings of Christmas dinner or even Thanksgiving dinner in America is decreased by the ease in which it is operable. That's kind of what you're getting at, that every element had
a lot of steps to it.
Like you said, a big production, big show-stopping number coming.
Okay, so you made a good point. What if it's getting on the verge there because your nose was really the only quality control that they had? in order to determine whether it had aged properly or if it was spoiled, whether to determine it had cooked properly or it was still underdone. Your nose was what you used to determine those things. So it helped to have a very veteran schnoz in the house. You know, it was a skilled
Veteran
thing,
schnoz.
a veteran schnoz. To be skilled enough to do, you know, the Christmas dinner. And
I'm putting that on a resume under special skills.
Okay.
Leadership training.
Our very first Thanksgiving, Chris, you and I were living in Germany, and you
veteran schnoz.
You came home one day and you said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to go over to our friends, Randy and Petra's house, and you're going to bring the turkey." And I went, "What?"
Well, I just volunteered you because I was in mode.
I had never made a turkey before.
Well, you're a country girl. I figured this was second nature for you.
I was never in charge. I was stoning the raisins.
I know. You were just a little raisin stoner. I didn't know that then. I didn't know that's all you could do.
It turned out okay. That's a whole other story.
Was that the time that we left the neck and stuff inside the bird?
The little bag of gizzards was still in there.
It was my friend from Hispanic descent from LA area, and he had married a German girl, and we were in a German house, and so they just must have thought that was the American tradition or something.
Yeah, well, and again, I apologized because the man of the household was like cutting it up and serving it up, and he's like, "What is this?" And he showed me it, and I'm like, "Oh dear, that's not supposed to be there. Sorry about that. Let's just throw it away."
Yes.
And it didn't hurt anything, obviously.
And then you yelled "figgy pudding" and you stomped out of the place.
But I do remember that German family loved the dressing inside the bird. I mean, they loved this. What is this?
Yeah.
What is this? This is they really
So
did
last I was following your notes here was veteran schnoz.
Yeah. You gotta use the cook's nose, right?
Yes.
All right. So question, have you ever plucked or cleaned a goose? Because that was the meat of choice. It is messy. It is stinky. It is dangerous work because you are dealing with huge pots of boiling water. Getting burned or scalded was a real possibility. And it could actually take up to 2 to 3 hours just to clean that giant bird. And so that was big doings too. Even if you got a goose, you still had a lot of work ahead of you. All right. Now these birds were roasted on a spit. These were amazing things. And it was not easy. Someone had to turn that spit constantly, like turn it every couple minutes for the entire duration of the roasting, which was about 3-4 hours, depending on how big the bird was.
And they did not have clocks or a watch back then.
No.
And so they had to use a veteran schnoz.
Veteran schnoz came in here as well.
And it looks like they rigged up a pulley system.
They did rig up a pulley system. And it made it much, much easier. That was high techie back in those days versus just doing it by hand with a little crank. It was much easier with the pulley system. It took some of that. It gave you a little bit more leverage, and it wasn't so difficult to move that big bird or that big piece of meat. Now, they didn't cook it. They didn't roast it right over the fire. Like I said before, they roasted it over coals. And you had to keep those coals at a consistent heat. You didn't want it to be too hot or it would burn on the outside. You didn't want those coals to be not hot enough because then your bird was not going to get done.
So in the picture there, it looks like the meat's on the front where the coals would be and the flames on the back on the pot boiling something.
Yep. And then underneath, they would put a little dish to catch all the drippings. Don't forget that bird has to be basted like every 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, I think McDermott's description of, what do you call it, a high stakes performance, every single dish, that's exactly what it was. So it took some know-how. It took some patience and endurance.
Yeah.
And some intuition as to knowing, it's done. No, it's not. It needs to go a little bit more. All right. Christmas trees.
Back to the veteran schnoz.
Christmas trees were a fairly new thing back then. They weren't all over in every house, but and most of them were very small, just like the tip of the tree or whatever. But they were used basically as a serving tray. If someone had them in their house, they would hang the fruits and the nuts and the candies on the tree. When Christmas Day rolled around, of course, they kind of grazed off the tree, eating all of those lovely snacks. The Dutch oven came into play because you're roasting your animal, but then all the other baked goods you did in Dutch ovens. This is a whole different method. The doughs were prepared and then placed in these Dutch ovens and then submerged into and just covered all around with coals on the sides, on the top, on the bottom. And again, not too many coals because he didn't want it too hot and burn, and not too few coals because it would never cook all the way through. These covered iron pots, cast iron Dutch ovens, once there was food in them, they could easily weigh up to 40 to 50 pounds. So I'm thinking about myself burning my hand with my little skillet, in the oven. And I thought maneuvering a 40 to 50 pound iron skillet Dutch oven, like, this is dangerous work.
Yeah, I mean, but again, you're back to the attention to detail. What Emilee did not talk about with the iron skillet is she was making an iron skillet pizza, and so you had to do the crust first, and then
the topping,
then we had to put the toppings in. So and it does. I mean, it is so much work compared to just popping in a frozen pizza or picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, I'll meet you at my door in 30 minutes." But it's worth it.
Totally worth it.
And so that's where I think the spirit of this whole story comes from, is that you and the iron skillet fought a little bit. And now you're thinking of these ladies that all had long dresses and all the danger of everything going on. And you're like, wow, they did a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Think about it. They're doing all this work in a long dress. Hello. Catching fire was kind of a common thing back then. Oy vey. All right. The Christmas dinner was actually served around 2:00 in the afternoon. Why? Because it was virtually impossible to get a meal on before then. And then to get everything timed and set on the table at the exact same time. It was kind of a miracle. But after the meal was done, you had cleanup. And the sun's going down, right? And so you wanted to make sure you had plenty of daylight in order to do the vast majority of the cleanup. So it often took a lot of hours, and it was very, very common to be doing those dishes and washing up those greasy pots by candlelight in basins of carried water, again, heated by another fire in the house. So, man.
So they're on their feet from literally 5 a.m. until way late.
Yeah, well, by the time they're serving dinner at 2:00, whoever the head mistress or the wife of the house was, she has been on her feet for 9+ hours doing pretty heavy duty work. And it was going to go on until the late hours of the night as well. So I tell you all of this to bring the fires and the coals in different rooms to different temperatures, needing pretty constant supervision without any modern conveniences at all. And to keep all of that at this controlled temperature without, you didn't have the convenience of just turning a button up or down a little bit. Getting it all done and on the table at the exact same time was indeed what I consider a Christmas miracle. I mean, the fact that God enabled us to do that. And technology had come, a ways at that point in history as well. And so I don't know. Wow.
Well, again, I think that the phrase that comes to mind as you're telling this whole story is efforts equal results. That's a phrase that we hear a lot of. Efforts equal results. And so when you put in the effort, like there's times that I want to do what I call putting my master chef on. Yeah. And you do it. Sometimes I don't even I don't even care about eating the food. It's the journey of preparing it has been so much fun. Trying to just show attention to detail, trying to get those things to come out just the way they are. When they do, eating it is just another step in the journey. So many times cooking is in the way of the feeding. We just want to eat. That's it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why, like Pop-Tarts, that's how they became a thing.
Yeah.
That's how
Convenience, convenience, convenience.
one of the biggest fights Emily and I had when we were first married is I was living as a single man on things like banquet chicken and cases of Pepsi. And Pepsi in her world was for holidays only, and banquet chicken was an affront to chicken.
Yeah, it wasn't really food.
Well,
you could call it that if you wanted to, but really it was just entertainment for
Yeah.
your mouth, I guess.
yeah.
It wasn't nutritious.
One time we were in the dairy aisle and we came across, what was it? American cheese food. It was like they had to put the word food right on the package. Either that, or I was thinking, is this what they feed the cheese?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Because grocery shopping, we were overseas.
Yeah.
We would go to the military base and it was always very, very busy. So out of your loving kindness, we always did that together on the weekends. It was
Yeah.
exciting to do. But
Yeah. And we were young. I mean, we were.
yeah, we had some of our first arguments so in
You
the
hadn't even turned 20
commissary.
years old. You were 19. I had just turned 20. You look back
Why
at the
are you
pictures, it
doing
looked
that?
like the paper boy married the Girl Scout.
I
You were
know.
So young.
I don't ever remember buying a jar of pickles prior to that. My mom, we would grow them,
Yeah.
grow cucumbers and pickle every year. And so we bought the Vlasic pickle jar. And I remember opening it and eating it and going, oh, this is not going to work for me.
No. No, we had a very big pickle dilemma for about 10 years of our marriage.
Even buying onions, like we didn't buy onions, we harvested onions and put them in the garage.
I mean, she still has a pickle arrogance.
Yeah.
And the one that you do go for that you like now and have for like the last 20 years.
Mount Olive.
Mount Olive.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Olive.
That's my brand.
If I bring home something else, it's like, what have you done?
Why? Why?
You pickle thief.
I loved pickles so much, I would drink the juice growing up.
Yeah, she would drink the juice.
That's how much I loved it.
You quit doing that about 10 years ago, but if I wouldn't put it past you to keep doing it.
I don't really drink
You know,
it now out of...
fix it when the pickles are gone.
Don't do it now.
You stand there talking to her while she's standing in the kitchen holding a pickle jar, sipping. And you really wonder, where did my life go wrong? Where did I take a wrong turn? Because
it's full of electrolytes.
Hey, I have people all throughout my history that would stand and sip strong stuff while I was talking to them. Not one was a pickle jar with pickle juice.
I know. So many things growing up on the farm, they just kind of went away as an adult and as time moves forward. And as time moves forward, a lot of those traditions fall away. I mean, we don't do the figgy pudding anymore. We don't do a lot of stuff.
That's not a bad thing to see go away. I mean, you said suet, and I'm looking at it thinking you said sewage. And
yeah, no, that's the figgy pudding.
Yeah.
And they can be very, very beautiful and they can be very, very simple.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the wealthy people, when they would make their figgy pudding or Christmas pudding, it was just very ornate and really beautiful and whatever. Anyway, traditions do die. They do go away. And I was reading an article the other day and my heart kind of sank because it was talking about all these Christmas traditions that have disappeared since like the 70s, I think they said. And so they had like the aluminum Christmas tree. They had, all those.
Why did the aluminum Christmas tree go away?
I don't know. It just fell out of fashion. And I remember my dad was very not aluminum Christmas tree. Like, no, I was excited about it as a kid. It was probably in my school classroom.
It's one of those things that was funky cool for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing with an aluminum tree?
I think they make them better now. As a vintage retro thing, they're starting to make them again.
Yeah, a lot of that junk is retro
they're
cool now.
Yeah, I don't think they're aluminum, but they look like the aluminum tree. But my dad was like, "No, we're not doing that." And I was now as an adult, I understand, and I'm glad that he never did. But there's some other things like, do you remember that tinsel that hung just so beautifully back in like the 40s and the 50s? That was made out of lead. And
Well,
that's why
that's good for the kids.
that's why it hung so beautiful. And they would take the lead, the tinsel off, and mom would actually iron it and store it for the next year. And so it was really, really beautiful. But that went away. And the new stuff that they make it's just not the same. It's kind of a mess, and it's kind of angel hair.
What's that?
That white, wispy, cloudy looking stuff. It was very common in ornaments and decorations back in the day, actually before my time even. But that was made out of asbestos.
Oh,
That went away.
can never have too much asbestos at the holidays.
So some of the traditions were kind of, no more angel
know. We
hair,
didn't know.
no more lead tinsel.
Do you know what else was going on during that time?
What?
And we talked about it, I think, on the show.
Okay.
Because we watched a documentary about all Christmas traditions in the Americas, like from the late 1800s all the way through the 70s.
Yeah.
And in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s, it started dying in the 70s. One of the best Christmas presents you could give to a coworker or a neighbor was a carton of cigarettes.
Oh, that's right.
And why
Lucky
not?
Strike and Merry Christmas, right?
Why not add a little asbestos to the festivities?
How did they
Merry
survive?
Christmas.
How did they survive? Oh my goodness. But okay.
Hey, Jack, here's a carton of smokes. Hey, did you get the asbestos up on your tree this year? Oh, it's looking good. Merry Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So much stuff is running through my brain right now. But here's the thing. There was one tradition in there that when I saw it, my heart just sank.
What's that?
They said that door-to-door Christmas caroling.
Oh, yeah, that's died off.
Thing of the past. Nobody does it anymore.
Last Sunday night with the church women, you guys went around to a couple of the places, like the nursing home and stuff.
Yeah, a couple of the places.
Yeah, it was too cold to go door to door.
Go to some doors, though.
We did.
Yeah, and not as many as we normally do, but then we went, because it was so bitterly cold, we went into more like facilities, hospitals and nursing homes and things like that. So my point is this. I'm very, very sad. I'm very, very sad for the people that think that that's a thing of the past and that they can't do it. But then I think about people in the bigger metro areas across the country, and it's like, oh, yeah, I see why you don't do that anymore. Not exactly safe to wait till after dark and then go knocking on people's doors that you don't know, right? So I was really, really sad to see that on the list. And I felt really bad for people where that is no longer a thing for them. And I thought, just move to small town America and you can do it again.
Maybe.
Because our church ladies do it every year. The lady that kind of coordinates it and does it every year. Oh my goodness. It makes our holiday season. There are so many benefits to getting together in this holiday time and just go Christmas caroling. And Chris, you were telling me that you found an article that there are actually tangible scientific benefits.
Yeah, health benefits.
Health benefits of Christmas caroling.
Yeah, I get an email every day called The Flyover, and they have great content in there. And they have links to different articles that you can click through, and they, some of them, it's just like there's paywalls behind them, and they always apologize. Sorry, we put a link in there that had a paywall.
Oh, accident. Yeah.
But but a lot of them, when you click on the links, you get just inundated with pop-ups where you can't hardly even get to the story. And, but anyway, this was not one of them. And it talked about the benefits of health for actually going and Christmas caroling. And like one of them is you feel good. Music is therapy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was so joyful. And the people that we would see, like in the nursing homes and so on, we would just go door to door in the nursing home. And there would be a nurse with us that would just check with the patient. There's some ladies here caroling. Would you like them to come in? And all of them said yes. No one said no. And one of them was somebody that couldn't have anyone in their room. But he's like, yeah, will they please just sing outside my, it
Music's
makes
therapy.
The people hearing and the people singing feel really good.
Another thing in this article about benefits for health was the sense of togetherness, not just being with others, but there was a sense of unity and togetherness. That's a huge biblical principle that when you have that in a fellowship, in a family, in a church, or in any kind of gathering, when you have that tight togetherness, that's why professional sports is so addicting to people, because all of us wear our, if you hypothetically a Vikings fan, you go to the Vikings arena and everybody's got Viking purple on,
Right.
and you feel a togetherness with people. I was, speaking of Germany, the Vikings were in the playoffs in Germany, and you could only see the games in certain public places that had satellite dishes. This is back in 1987. No one was wearing jerseys to the games, but
That was like 50 years ago.
I had a
dude.
Vikings jacket, and there was like 3 pubs along the way at the town in Germany that we were at, and so the games were on in all 3 of those pubs, and the Vikings won. They beat, I think they beat the San Francisco 49ers or something. They're headed to play Washington in the NFC Championship game. And as we're filing out onto the street, it's not packed like with 10s and 20s people. It's just like 4, 5, 6 different people. And this dude is walking towards me in a Vikings hat. And I've got my Viking jacket on. And we notice each other about 5 strides away. And as we passed each other, this is one of the coolest moments of my life. As we passed each other, without saying a word to each other, we just high-fived, like right in the middle of the sidewalk, and just kept going because we'd won that game. There's a togetherness.
Did you sing a song?
No.
Okay.
But the togetherness of Christmas caroling makes a stronger, healthier bond with people. And I'm trying to make the spiritual flip using sports as another analogy, that the church and your Christian brothers and sisters, that togetherness, that you're all saved in spite of yourself, it's pretty powerful. Up next, they even talk about blood circulation.
Yeah, hold on though, before we move on. So you can see the benefit of, because that carries over into church when you get together and you're singing hymns together, right? And you're singing Christian songs together, and you're united.
Part of worship, part of praise band stuff.
Exactly. So that translates also into a culture where maybe they're not saved, but it's Christmas time and everybody's going to church, and they've been listening. They know these Christmas songs. So even if you have a very, very secular neighbor, friend, circle of people, those Christmas carols are still a unifying thing, even with non-believers, because it's part of our culture and they know the songs. So I mean, it brings people together.
The other benefits from the article, I'm just going to throw all 3 out there and you can comment on them.
Okay.
Blood circulation, air in your lungs, brain injuries, and neurological illnesses actually can be eased during Christmas caroling. And then there's the sense of community. Discuss.
Blood circulation.
Okay,
so I suppose the door to door, you're getting outside, you're walking, you're meeting people, but then I think just the singing itself, you're breathing in deeper and breathing out longer than what you normally do in just your day-to-day conversation. And I think that that's probably really, really good for you. If you know swimmers take very, very deep breaths, and those deep breaths do, in fact, help the swimmer's health and body. Taking, just on a regular basis, taking those deep, long breaths is a very healthy, healthy thing. So sing away.
Brain injuries and neurological illnesses, that you can help regain speech as people have strokes. It can be comforting for them, and it works both sides of the brain. And so listening and participating in caroling, even if you can't sing, you can still get a benefit from it. And I think that, going and singing Frosty the Snowman or going and singing Away in the Manger are 2 totally different things. That's just, I believe there's something spiritual about singing praise to our Lord that actually brings more healing than just jingle bells of the season.
I agree. I totally agree with that, because words have meaning and words have effect, right? So there's a very powerful video out there that went viral many, many years ago. And there's this woman with Parkinson's in a nursing home, and she's, has kind of just that blank, disconnected facial expression, and she's not real responsive. And all of a sudden, the caregiver who worked at the nursing home came up to her, and she was actually a Jewish woman. Okay, here's your togetherness, right? She was a Jewish woman, and she knew that this woman was a Christian. So she started singing a hymn to this woman with Parkinson's, and all of a sudden she just started coming to life. She was connected. She started, moving to the rhythm of the song, and then eventually was even singing the words along with. And so that was a powerful visual of the reality of what we're talking about in the benefits of the health of not just door to door Christmas carols singing, although that's one aspect of it, but the gift of music that God has given us. I mean, we go way back into the book of Genesis where there were people put in charge of music. It was there from the very beginning, just like language, just like thought, just like speech. It was all there. And it's a gift from God. And because it's a gift from God, of course, we're going to see when it's used properly and used well to glorify God, we are going to see benefit to mankind through that.
Well said.
Boom. There we go.
Bada bing, bada boom. And that's going to do it for our Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And we are back in January. And when we come back in January, we have some goals I want to share with you before we sign off for the day.
Are these your final thoughts?
These are my final thoughts.
Okay.
That is that if you have subscribed at Fresh Road Media for free, and that's the level that you want to be part of our tribe, we are so glad that you are along with us. If you have been giving financially, you have made such a difference in so many different people's lives. Just Salvaged by God teaching platform alone has changed lives because Fresh Road Media is able to put it out there. And we can't do that at the level we're doing it without your help. And we are all volunteers. There's no paid staff at Fresh Road Media. And so we use the money to increase our equipment, increase our reach, increase some of our availability, because not a lot of things are, free as far as we want to be organically, but some things just don't work that way. So what we're trying to do in 2026 is put together a very strong ministry, and it's going to take people just like you standing with us financially. If you say, you know what, I'm tapped out, I've got other things that God's laying on my heart, I will just subscribe for free. Well, go ahead and do that. And then if you're watching this on Rumble or YouTube, why don't you go ahead and throw a thumbs up on there and, like and subscribe the video or the channel. And that helps us as well. FreshRoadMedia.com is where you go for all things of the outreach broadcast ministry of Emilee Danielson. And that's where my teaching platform, which I've had through the Bible Idiots brand into Salvaged by God. And so, like I say, I'm not that great of an orator, but what I do well is I exegete the text and I tell you what God has laid on my heart, and I try to take you as deep as possible and as real as possible. And quite honestly, I don't care if your feelings get hurt. I just want you to know that there's a substitute for your sin, and his name is Jesus Christ. And those of us who have accepted that, we have a great future. And so together, let's celebrate that, learn more about him daily in keeping with repentance. We praise the Lord. And my phrase of 2025, which I'm keeping for 2026, is contentment with godliness is great gain. So be content this holiday season.
Yes.
And from my heart to yours, Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. And we'll see you on this show after the new year. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't just mention the elephant in the room that we dressed the same today.
Oh, we didn't plan it.
We did not plan this.
And by the way, if you go to a thumbnail down the line on No Apology 1 month ago, you wore a shirt just like this. We have our own.
Yeah.
I have mine, you have yours. So it's not the same shirt. It's not like you're dipping over into my side of the closet.
Wear the same clothes. No, but we're
not above it. We just don't do it.
Should the need arise. But
Does this blouse bring out the gray in my beard?
We both
Said no man ever.
we both have a lot of flannel in our closet, okay? So a couple of them do overlap. But yeah, we're both doing the red and plaid thing today. And I guess great minds think alike. And it wasn't on purpose. I just need to say that it was not on purpose. We are not getting to that point where we intentionally dress the same, although I can't guarantee that'll never happen. What we do want to encourage you to do on purpose is have a really great holiday season by focusing on the Lord Jesus Christ. Make that the focus of your season, because all the joy and all the happiness and all the contentment is going to flow out through there. And then remember, keep Christmas all the year. Cook, feast, eat, sing, do all those things, those gifts that God has given us. And like Chris said, we'll see you back here next year, 2026. No Apology with Emilee and Chris.
Thank you for listening or watching this Fresh Road Media product. I support Fresh Road Media because I love seeing lives changed all across the globe. We're seeing listeners, watchers, viewers from all 50 states and several different countries. Lives are being encouraged and lives are being changed by the preaching of Salvaged by God and the talk show No Apologies with Emilee and Chris. I personally listen in my truck when I drive for work. You can listen however fits your lifestyle. If you too would like to join us, go to freshroadmedia.com and become a subscriber at any level. And if you do financially support, we have plenty of really good resources for you as a way of us saying thank you for joining us. Log on and check out freshroadmedia.com and welcome to our tribe.